Hi guys! Today I'm sharing my thoughts on the Husqvarna Svartpilen 401. Now this is just a summary of my impressions on it as a choice for your first bike. It's not a full review as I didn't have time for that. It's really busy at work. But hopefully it gives you useful perspective if you're trying to figure out if this is the right bike for you. I recently got to borrow a 2021 model, and this is the Philippine-made, Philippine market spec that has cast wheels and a lower seat height. And yes, it's a bummer. This model doesn't get the spoked wheels or the adjustable front forks. But that's the price for keeping the price competitive here. As in the past, I'm reviewing a bike that I have a story with. The Svart was the final and top contender for my first highway legal motorcycle here in the Philippines before I was eventually swayed to get a Royal Enfield Himalayan instead. You can learn more about that in this video about why I sold my Himalayan. But anyway, why the Svart 401? As I've mentioned before, I wanted a KTM 390 Adventure when I started riding in 2020. Then in early 2021, the Svart 401 comes out here and it was being advertised as an urban explorer with an upright handlebar, Pirelli Scorpion Rally STR tires standard. So I thought, here's a bike that I can do most of the riding I want to do on the 390 Adventure, but it's got a classic style too. I thought I might be able to tour and do light off-road with it while also getting a lower seat height by 20mm or more than the 390 Adventure. A brief test ride with the Svart confirmed my suspicions. It was smooth, easy to ride, and fun. The throttle wasn't jumpy like the 390 Duke, but still punchy. But I had no money to buy one just then and wouldn't have it for another year. So I eventually ended up with the Himalayan, but I always wondered about the Svart. It wasn't until April 2022 that I finally got to properly ride the Svart 401, thanks to a generous friend who lent his with just 500 kilometers on it. And I wasn't disappointed. It's definitely my favorite among all the models using the KTM 390 engine. So today, I'm comparing it mainly with the 390 Adventure for the simple reason that it was between these two bikes that I was choosing, and I never got to ride either until recently. One is a purpose-built adventure touring machine with more electronic aids, while the other is a kind of funky Nordic neo-retro scrambler or tracker that also has switchable ABS, implying some kind of off-road aspiration. Now, tastes vary, but for me, the 401s are a joy to look at compared to the KTMs. I know these bikes don't compete with each other on paper, but they're nearly the same price here. And as a new rider looking to pick my one bike, I struggled trying to figure out which was the right one for me. More ADV features, or a more sexy bike? So here's what I found out after finally trying them. The Svart 401 is a handsome, fun, light, and easy-to-ride machine that takes what we love from the KTM 390s and puts it, in my opinion, in its most refined form. It takes the edge off the 390 Duke's Kid on a Sugar Rush character and puts it in a retro-cool package, the overall effect of which I find very appealing. It's my favorite among the 390 Duke, Adventure, and Vitpilen 401. It's also the most easygoing of them, which by now you can probably guess is part of why I like it so much. It has a better fit and finish than the 390 Adventure test unit that I tried, exactly the confidence-inspiring feel I was looking for within the expectations of this price range. As with every 390, it's a joy to throw around in the twisties and not intimidating to ride anywhere, especially in its lowered form. And the optional quick shifter, which was enabled on the unit I tried, is clunky, but it worked to help me keep up with bigger bikes on a long tour. Most significantly, it immediately captivated me in a way the 390 Adventure didn't. It's so engaging and fun to ride while looking and feeling more premium, in my opinion, than the KTMs, with the exception of this dashboard. It's an absolutely enjoyable and accessible starter bike. Ride it hard or ride it smooth. Throw it through corners or just glide without any fear of its weight or too much power. If you ride a lot in the city and you're not too short, this is the bike to get because it's as thin as the smallest motorcycles on the road pretty much, but it gives you the power to blast past traffic and dart through lanes. And if you need a motorcycle to look good for hanging out with the cool kids at cafes, well, the Svart does that pretty well. Obviously, no bike is perfect, and there are two main areas where the 390 Adventure is better than the Svart. To my disappointment, although I guess it was never expected to be, the Svart 401 is not built to be a long-distance tourer. It's just not that comfy for long rides. I was surprised at how stiff the Svart is, both the seat and the suspension. I mean, admittedly, I don't know what Urban Explorer is supposed to mean, but I thought it would mean more plushness. Maybe suspension travel was also compromised as a result of this model being lowered. Maybe the suspension needed adjusting for my weight. But this is the default for models sold here, so I have to review it as is. When taking big lumps and potholes, I was constantly subjected to ball-crushing bumps if I didn't remember to stand up or slow down enough. As I said in my 390 Adventure review, all KTMs seem to share a hard seat and bias for sportiness, aka stiffness, although it is not as stiff as the 390 Duke. If you prefer that sportiness, then actually I'm told that the front fork feels too soft, so it still is somewhere in the middle. Foot peg position is relaxed, so I like that. But the handlebar position, despite being more upright than the Svartpilen and the Duke, still puts noticeable weight on your arms that you feel after some time riding spiritedly in the twisties. The bike's lack of mass and wind protection will also work against you on long highway stretches, as will its small 9.5-liter tank, which I remember being one of my deal breakers back then. There is a price for that slim figure. Additionally, you have fewer purpose-built luggage options for this for touring, and the thin rear limits what you can carry. I remember this was a noticeable gap that came up in my research on this bike. You do get the bracket on top of the tank, which is a nice touch. On the other hand, just so you know, my riding buddy Martin's 60-year-old dad took the Svart 401 with luggage from La Union to Tuguegarao and back in just like 3 days. An epic 330-kilometer ride one way, that means times 2, through the Cordillera Mountains in mixed weather. So, as with any bike, what you can do is up to you and how you adjust. And Martin, as you can see, took his 390 Duke, which I have taken to calling the Duke 390 Adventure. And then there's off-road. As this was a super fresh and borrowed bike, I didn't want to abuse it, but what I can say is that the lightweight, softer power delivery, switchable ABS, slightly lower seat height, and the tires will enable you to do some scrambling without feeling scared of the bike getting away from you. It's just a really unintimidating light bike. As you see here, that's Martin's dad again that you're watching in these clips doing some proper off-road with it. But particularly for spirited off-road riding, ground clearance is an issue, particularly on the lowered models and the new models where the exhaust is routed under the engine. Obviously, the 390 Adventure will outperform this off-road with its significant advantage in suspension travel and ground clearance, with the main disadvantage of the Adventure being its tall seat height. If you plan to ride aggressively off-road, the 390 Adventure is the way to go, if you can handle the height. But if, like me, you just trundle off-road on the way to your destination, then the Svart will take you through most things without needing enduro training or to deadlift 200 kilos. For other disadvantages, the lowered version of the Svart has this issue where the side stand doesn't lean the bike enough, so I lived in constant fear of the bike tipping over if not on perfectly level ground. They should include a shorter side stand with the lowered version. You also miss out, for the price you're paying, on that big full-color TFT screen that you get on both of the KTM 390s, so maybe it'll give you a sense of not getting your money's worth. But you do get an overall more premium-feeling bike. And also, be warned, in the Philippines at least, the Svart, like its KTM siblings, has expensive parts that now and then can take a while to arrive. In other words, the Svart leans towards the sporty, stiff, weekend blast-on-the-road focused character of the 390 Duke, not the more comfy 390 Adventure. That's the question I wanted answered when I was deciding between the 390 Adventure and the Svart 401, and now I know. And now you do too. The Svart has got adventure-y pretensions that strike me as mostly skin deep, and in that sense, I can say it's a 390 Duke that's grown up a little, refined and customized by the factory into a scrambler or like a street tracker. For many riders, myself included, that's worth the price increase over the Duke. But if you ride more aggressively off-road, or you just want much better comfort, then it's the 390 Adventure. Svart 401 owners out there, do chime in the comments for any notes that you want to share with other viewers of this video, and for other important things that potential Svart owners need to know or even issues they need to be prepared for if they plan to own this bike. And that's it for my quick thoughts on the Husqvarna Svartpilen 401. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any more questions about the bike, maybe how it compares with the other bikes in its class. And don't forget, as usual, to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and watch my actual adventure vlog with the Svart. I will catch you next time. Peace.